The stage lights had barely cooled when Cassi Davis, the woman so many fans knew and loved as Medea's no-nonsense Aunt Bam, finally cracked. For years, she carried the smile, the laugh, the witty one-liners that made Tyler Perry's empire shine. But behind the curtain, she says, was a truth so heavy it nearly broke her. The confession didn't come through a glossy interview or a carefully written statement. It came through trembling lips, misty eyes, and a voice that shook with the weight of secrets buried too long. "I stayed quiet to protect everyone," she whispered. "But silence eats you alive." And then the bombshell. Cassi admitted there were moments, years in the making, where she felt betrayed, overlooked, even silenced inside the very machine that made her famous. Whispers backstage about money. Stories of roles promised, then pulled away. Friends warning her to keep her mouth shut or risk losing everything. Fans are shocked. Colleagues are scrambling. Some say this was the truth she should have spoken a decade ago. Others believe she's only just beginning to peel back the layers of what really happened between her and Tyler Perry. The question is, if this is just the start, what's left hidden that could tear the empire apart? Cassi Davis's journey with Tyler Perry began like something straight out of a dream. She was already respected in the theater world, known for her voice that could silence a room and her comedic timing that made audiences double over. But the real turning point came when she crossed paths with a man who would soon become one of the most powerful names in entertainment. Tyler Perry, the rising playwright, with bold vision, was pulling together the foundation of what would later be a media empire. Cassi was the missing piece, the spark that brought his stories to life in ways audiences never forgot. In the early days, the partnership looked unshakable. Cassi wasn't just another actress on the stage, she was family, at least that's what Tyler made everyone believe. Behind closed doors, the cast shared meals like cousins at a reunion. Laughter filled rehearsal rooms, and Tyler would often say, "We're not just making plays, we're building a legacy." For Cassi, those words felt sacred. She believed him. She believed in him. But cracks started to appear in the legacy long before anyone could see them. It began with small slights that others might have brushed off, but that stuck with Cassi. Times when her name wasn't mentioned in press interviews. Moments when she poured her soul into a role, only to see all the praise handed to someone else, she told close friends. "It feels like I'm disappearing in my own work." They reassured her, telling her Tyler knew her worth. Yet, she couldn't shake the feeling that the spotlight she once shared with him was dimming, and it wasn't by accident. Whispers backstage only made things worse. Fellow actors murmured about contracts, about paychecks that didn't quite match the promises made. Cassi, who had given years of her life to these productions, sometimes found herself waiting longer than anyone else to be compensated. When she asked questions, she was met with silence or vague answers like, "It's being handled." She confided to one friend, "Being told to wait feels like being told to shut up." Then came the emotional toll. Fans adored her character, Aunt Bam, praising her for bringing levity and wisdom to every Medea film. But off-screen, Cassi was struggling with exhaustion. She had carried shows through grueling schedules, performing through illness, pushing herself harder than she admitted, publicly. When she asked for breaks, she was reminded that the audience needs you. It felt less like family and more like obligation. And still, she smiled, because that was the expectation. It was during one late-night rehearsal that the tension boiled over for the first time. Cassi had flubbed a line, rare for her, and Tyler's reaction was sharper than usual. "Do you even want to be here?" he snapped. The room went quiet. Cassi felt her throat tighten, but she forced out a calm. "I've given my everything to this." The silence stretched before Tyler finally moved on, but the damage lingered. Afterwards, she sat in her car, staring at the steering wheel, fighting back tears. She whispered to herself, "I'm more than just a prop." Friends began to notice, her pulling back. Once the life of every cast gathering, Cassi now excused herself early, claiming fatigue. She stopped laughing as much in interviews, her words rehearsed, safe, cautious. Fans thought she was just tired, but those close to her suspected something deeper. "She's carrying weight that's not hers," one castmate later admitted. Then came the rumors. People inside the circle whispered that Cassi had been offered projects outside of Perry's empire, but turned them down, fearing backlash. Some even said she was pressured to stay loyal, as if stepping outside meant betrayal. One insider revealed, "There was this unspoken rule. You don't outshine Tyler. You don't step away from him without paying the price." Whether true or not, Cassi felt the cage closing in. The hardest blow came when a film premiered, one she had sacrificed months of her life for, only to see her role trimmed down so drastically it felt like an afterthought. Fans questioned why. Aunt Bam barely appeared. Cassi smiled in interviews, brushing it off as creative decisions. But behind the scenes, she was devastated. "It's like being erased," she told a close confidant, her voice breaking. The situation reached a new level when family entered the conversation. Cassi's relatives, who had always been proud of her career, began asking questions. "Why don't we see your name on the posters anymore? Why does it always say, Tyler Perry's this, Tyler Perry's that? Where are you?" Those questions stung. Her own family, the people who had supported her when she was broke and hustling in theater, now saw her fading into the background. In one heated family dinner, her cousin bluntly asked, "Does he even respect you?" Cassi slammed her fork down, tears welling up. "Don't say that," she shot back. But deep down, she wondered the same thing. Her church friends, too, noticed changes. She was quieter, more withdrawn. During one prayer group meeting, someone asked her directly if she was carrying burdens. She hadn't spoken aloud. Cassi only smiled faintly and said, "God knows my heart." But her eyes told a different story. And then came the whispers of betrayal. Not Cassi betraying Tyler, but Tyler betraying Cassi. One insider claimed Tyler had been using Cassi's name to secure deals, promising her involvement, only to cut her out of the final agreements. She was his leverage, the insider said, and she didn't even know it. This was the moment Cassi started writing everything down. Late at night, in notebooks she kept hidden under her bed, she began to pour out the truth. Every broken promise, every moment she felt silenced, every time she wondered if her loyalty had been taken advantage of. "One day," she wrote, "the world will know." Those notebooks would later become the foundation of the truth she finally revealed, but in the beginning, they were her lifeline, a way to survive in a world where speaking out meant risking everything. The tension reached its peak during the filming of another Madea film. Cassi had asked for a small break due to health concerns, something any family would understand. But instead of empathy, she was met with skepticism. "We'll find someone else if you can't keep up," she was told.